We'll take a look at our parade lap as we get it ready to go here, what we got up on the program tonight. We always talk about the big check if you're familiar with those. We'll talk about that in a minute. Also a news story for you. Then we'll reveal our champions and my victory lane speech tonight, talking about specials versus weekly racing programs and a little bit of a cautionary tale that I hope everyone takes the time to listen to. So without further ado, we'll move on over and take a look. You'll notice it says TBA, to be announced. We're going to announce. Normally I'll start the show with who's on the big check. But previous winners of the honor, my favorite number 2, Mo Newer. Last week we had number 7, Stroker Ace was on the placard. And one of my favorites so far, the late great Wayne Redmond, number 61, was our most recent name on the check. We'll reveal that tonight after my victory lane speech for us tonight. All right, so while people get logged in here, I want to talk a little bit about special races. There is a ton of them. I just posted, if you go to k985.com, a series of posts about specials that are happening. In fact, I don't have all of them, but there's 97 different specials that I found over 197 days. So that's like about one every 2 days. Now, granted, there's some that are on top of one another, so it isn't like Monday there's one and then Wednesdays there's one, but there's a ton of them. And I love specials, but I'm a little concerned about a few things, and I want you guys to hear it at the end of the program tonight, my victory lane speech, talking about, hey, we can have specials, but there's one thing we need to make sure we are paying attention to. The weather's starting to turn good, and we're all dreaming of who is going to be winning the races that we go see on a weekly basis. So our first category tonight for our champion reveal is our Sport Mod B-Mod class, and the defending champion for the Sport Mods was Tony Olson, and he was locked in a great battle throughout the last round, the championship round of our Bill Colwell Ford main event, and Clinton Llewellyn put on a good battle. But in the end, it was Tony Olson who ended up taking the win in our Sport Mod B-Mod class. Clinton Llewellyn was second. Nate Schauder had a strong run towards the end, just ran out of gas. Jared Van Diest, Tyler Soppe, and Doug Smith rounded out the top 6. So we had over 70,000 votes on this as well. Chris Marchese, check it in, cut to the chase. You know me, I'm never going to cut to the chase directly. All right, so our hobby stock class, here's somebody I'm sure Marchese is trying to pay attention to. Benji Irvine, who works with Chris, had a lead. Probably we had 21 days of voting, and I would say had the lead until day 17, and that's when Weston Coop, who came out of a last chance qualifying event, came on strong late in round 2, came in strong on late 3, but was it Irvine? Was it Weston Coop? In the end, it was Weston Coop that would have his fans tally him up in the last 3 hours of voting. So congratulations to Weston Coop. Benji Irvine will have to settle for second. Shannon Anderson is third. Cody Nielsen, Eric Stanton, and Matt White round out the top 6. And a kudos to Benji Irvine and his mama. Up next, we'll take a look at our stock car class. Damon Murdy has been strong throughout the whole thing. Nathan Wood, I'd say, took a little bit to get going through the first round, but he came on strong and put on a great battle between these two, helped put on a great battle between these two in the final days of the Bill Colwell Ford main event. So when it was all said and done and the checkered flag was dropped, now I'm not being dramatic here, I'm just trying to find the button. There it is. Nathan Wood is our winner. Damon Murdy ended up in second. Chad Palmer third. Tom Schmidt, Devin Smith, and Mike Nichols rounded out the top 6. Congratulations to our top 6 and Nathan Wood for the win. Up next, we'll take a look at our late models. Jeff Ike trying to take down the defending champion of our Iowa's Virtual Dirt Track Classic, the Bill Colwell Ford main event winner in 2016, Tyler Drosty. I know I thought I saw Steve on there just a little bit ago, waiting to find out who's our champion with the late models. Tyler Drosty will defend and take the championship in our Bill Colwell Ford main event in 2016. Jeff Ike only about 40-some votes back behind him. Daryl DeFrance, Ryan Dolan, Matt Ryan, and Tyler Bruning complete the top 6 in our championship round. Last we'll take a look now is our modified class. Chris Zog and Kelly Shryock have been putting on a great battle. Chris Zog actually lost a lot of ground at the beginning of the weekend. Kelly Shryock fans were in there clicking. Chris Zog got his co-workers to help him out, but was it enough to claim the championship? Yes, Chris Zog will take the win over Kelly Shryock. Richie Gustin had a good run towards the end, finishing third. Corey Drips fell to fourth. Ricky Thornton Jr. fifth. And Vern Jackson, one might wonder maybe if he's not on focusing on the race because he had a grandbaby on the way. If that's the case, Vern, right choice, but congratulations for making it to the top six. And congratulations, Chris Zog, for the championship. All right, so this is new for the Iowa's Virtual Dirt Track Classic. Of our 5 champions, I added up all the votes from all 3 rounds to get ourselves a grand champion, and taking the win in the grand championship. Overall, best in show, I guess you could say. The Westminster Dog Show was just not too long ago. Tyler Drosty edging Chris Zog by 3 votes for this championship. 3 votes. And Tyler Drosty is the winner. And I went over the votes for the last hour to make sure that it was only 3 votes. Congratulations, Tyler Drosty, our grand champion for this year's Iowa's Virtual Dirt Track Classic. And thank you to Bill Colwell Ford in Hudson. If you guys are looking, that's the place to go, Bill Colwell Ford. And tell him Bucky sent you, and it's because of the Iowa's Virtual Dirt Track Classic. So, all right, I mentioned earlier in the opening here in our green flag waving session that I got a post up at k985.com about the different specials that I found. Now, I'm sure I don't have all of them. There's 97 different specials in the state of Iowa, starting in late March until the early October, and that encompasses 197 days. So I was thinking about that, and I was like, man, I just love specials. I'm just like everybody else. I love to go to the specials, but I'm a little concerned that maybe we're heading down a path that might be one we want to take a look at. When you take a look at growing up, a lot of the race fans that I hang around with, because we're not young anymore. We're not old, but we're not young anymore. Grew up going Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights to the weekly track. And then my dad, for example, took his car and driver maybe a half dozen county fair specials and a few other money races, maybe 20, 25 specials. The large encompassing laps was on a weekly program. So when you have 97 different specials, basically you could run specials and that's it. Is it really a special anymore, or is it just advanced weekly racing? So the question is, can we survive continuing going down this path? Now, there's a lot of people that are saying, no, we can't. Yes, we can. No, we can't. Well, I think, yes, we can, but there's a caveat on top of that. I think we need to take a lesson from what NASCAR has traveled. A lot of dirt track fans are bad-mouthing NASCAR, dissing them because they forgot their roots. I think we are on the edge of forgetting our roots as well with dirt track racing. So what is it exactly that NASCAR has become? Well, let's see. So what does 97 races in the state of Iowa have to do with NASCAR? Well, if you remember, NASCAR started out on grassroots, weekly racing. Well, it wasn't really weekly. It became travel. There were small tracks. And eventually along the way, NASCAR grew. So did its expectations with its fans and its drivers and also its corporate sponsors. The monster got hungrier and hungrier until it had to take a bite of a bigger piece of pie. And eventually a southern thing became an East Coast thing, and the monster eventually travels across the country now, devouring everything it can in the racing world. What's next when that appetite is full? Well, if you ask me, and this is just my opinion, NASCAR is positioning itself to become a global racing leader. If you don't believe me, why would they have gone to Japan? Why would they go to Mexico? Why would they go to Canada? Did you know there's a NASCAR Euro Series? Yes, even in Europe, they're racing NASCAR stuff. All right, so what am I getting at? Well, we're starting to lose touch with our grassroots. Our grassroots started with weekly racing. That's what also is our feeder series into these bigger specials. I love going to specials. I like to see how the guys that I see on a weekly basis compare to the guys on the other side of the state, or I read in headlines on the internet. I want to see how they match up. But if they're always doing it, that novelty of that matchup isn't there anymore. And we're starting to have some specials now to the point where it's big dollar specials. And again, I say we can have it survive, but we need to make sure we remember where we are at with grassroots racing, weekly racing. That's the feeder series. That's also where the young fans come in. That's where also the young aspiring drivers come from. If we don't have that anymore, pretty soon your local track is only going to run 1, 2 races. And then eventually, who's going to go then? Well, by and by, the local guys and gals that are fans or supporters of the racing is going to fall by the wayside. Yes, there's an argument to be had whether or not there's enough money to support weekly racing based on the payouts, but also based on what the drivers are spending. But I'll be honest with you, that's another conversation for another day. I don't want to go down that road. It is a road I think we need to travel, and a lot of sanctioning bodies and drivers are going down it. I just want to make sure when we drive down that road, we don't have road rage and have a conversation that's very civil about what needs to be done. And just because somebody doesn't agree with you, don't hate on them. That seems to be the thing. Everyone bullies. And that's another thing that is ruining the sport. Bullying. Well, you don't like the sanction I like. Screw you. Well, who wants to be a part of that? And if weekly racing becomes bi-weekly, monthly racing, who wants to go hang around with somebody saying, screw you? So, if there's a special, and that is your life, love it. Go out and enjoy it. But make sure you support weekly racing at the same time before that life support gets pulled on weekly racing, feeding to the bigger series. Both can survive, but we, as race fans and individuals and supporters of racing, have to support both in order for it to work. Well, that's my rant for the night. Victory Lane. Oh, I almost forgot. Who's the big check winner tonight? We'll give it to Tyler Drosty. Tyler Drosty, since he is our grand champion of the Iowa's Virtual Dirt Track Classic, thank you very much. For those that, and again, I want to thank everyone who took the time to support us all through the 4 weeks, I guess it was, with Iowa's Virtual Dirt Track Classic, especially Bill Colwell Ford, and all the drivers and fans who took the time to share it out and vote. And thank you very much. I appreciate everything that you've done. That's twofold, Bucky. Jack Roof checking in. Tracks can't survive without the cars, and the cars can't survive without the tracks to run them, and at the fans to watch them. It simply isn't economical for cars to run weekly shows. See more. I mentioned that earlier, Jack. I don't know if you're just checking in. That's a whole nother conversation, and I understand that, and I agree with you that that is something that does need to be addressed. In fact, I noticed a lot of people are addressing it now. I noticed Dana Benning. I mention him simply because that's where I work on Saturday nights. Had a special meeting in the fall and invited late model drivers to come up. IMCA even came up and talked about that program. And I know they've had other meetings along the way, and other people along the way have been talking about it. And yes, it does need to be addressed, but that wasn't the conversation that I wanted to have tonight. I just wanted to make sure us, as those that are in the racing world, make sure we do support weekly racing, because if we don't, the specials will fall by the wayside. And along the way, the economics will even come more lopsided, because if weekly racing, special races basically become the weekly, then that threshold of money spent still continues to grow. We are not suppressing and learning to take our appetite in small doses. We're simply just adding to the pie. We're not learning to eat right. So hopefully along the way we can create more conversations like this. Yeah, Troy Hovey checking in. It's getting warmer. Let's go racing. Hey, I think we ought to go racing this weekend. Granted, it'd probably be a bad track, but I agree. Thanks, everybody, for checking in tonight. It has been a ton of fun, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have putting it together. We will do it again next year, the 3rd Annual Iowa's Virtual Dirt Track Classic, and maybe more of these forums. Maybe we'll create a forum or a news type of things down the road. For all of us at Town Square Media Waterloo, Bill Colwell Ford in Hudson, my name is Bucky Doren. Thank you very much for checking in tonight with Iowa's Virtual Dirt Track Classic. Congratulations to all our champions.